All right, let's bring our first guest out here. Tomorrow night, Paul, ask me about the CBS Morning News in Miami. All right?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, ask me about it. We don't have time to talk about it now.
We don't have time now?
No, we got to bring Mr.
All right, I'll be
Cleese
asking
out.
about it.
All right. And ask me about my mother and her aerobics class tomorrow, too.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, ask me about that.
Okay.
My
No
mom's
time
taking
now, though.
aerobics. No, we don't. We have to bring out our first guest.
Excuse me?
I say we have to bring out our first guest.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Why? You don't need to whisper, Paul.
You seem to be lowering the whole volume of the studio.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe it was me. I'm sorry. Forgive me. My first guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, has been with us several times before. It's always a pleasure to welcome him back. He is one of the founding members of Monty Python and the man who created the character Basil Fawlty of the British TV series Fawlty Towers. Please say hello to the witty, charming, and urbane Mr. John Cleese.
How do you do? How do you do? How do you do?
Nice to see you again. You know, recently I saw on some cable operation, one of those fly-by-night cable deals, they come and go like this. One of these, it was, I think, the first Monty Python movie that came to this country. It was now for something really...
Completely different.
No, for something... Whoa, was that funny?
That's good.
Yeah, very entertaining movie.
None of the other Pythons like it.
Is that right?
No, they all think Meaning of Life is good, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And they're not aware that Life of Brian is much the best movie we made.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we're not working anymore.
Oh, dissension in the ranks.
Yes.
Finally
yes,
split things up. What?
Well, I finally left them, and they've gone to pieces predictably. And it's not really funny, because 3 of them are in homes now.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yes,
oh, that's terribly sad. Yeah.
Terry Jones can't dress himself anymore. Michael Palin just talks the whole time. He's not able to stop talking.
Yeah.
You've probably noticed that. You've had him on the show. Well,
That's right.
It's worse.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse.
Uh-huh.
And, it's very sad. We're trying to get money together for them. But
Well,
it's
let's
slow.
keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
God bless you. How are things in Great Britain?
Well, I think the great British public has finally rumbled. Do you say that, Margaret Thatcher? They finally sussed her out.
There's something to do here. Now, is this involved with the helicopter company?
That's right.
Yeah, now what exactly is this?
Well, it's very complicated to explain, but basically what's happened is that somebody's walked out of the cabinet. He actually walked out of a cabinet meeting and resigned from the cabinet and began to say how the cabinet operated.
Right.
And people began to realize what I think they'd suspected for a very long time, which is really what a ghastly old bat she is.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get this right.
If you read...
Ghastly old bat.
If you read English newspapers, she's either irritated or furious or somewhere in between. You know, her emotional spectrum is very narrow. It goes from indignation, irritation, anger, rage, and fury. And that's how she reacts to everything. Now, people in England are getting very nervous, because I don't know if you've ever been in a place where the person in charge is very bad-tempered the whole time.
Well, no, I can
Well,
not
people
on
get
that
very
scope.
nervous,
Yeah,
you know? They wake up every morning and they
Twitching.
hear her shouting, and the news says she's angry again, she's indignant again, she's furious again, she's striking back again. Whereas you have such a nice man in charge of your
Very
country.
cordial, very
and that's
reassuring.
why you're all behaving so well at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know, whereas in England, we're having the most terrible trouble. I don't know if you heard that the leader of the Conservative Party said in Parliament to the leader of the Socialist Party, that's Tebbit, said to Kinnock, "I could eat you for breakfast." And within 3 days, one of the Socialist MPs in Europe was rolling around on the floor fighting with one of the Conservative MPs. While the other European MPs were going by, they could not believe this. You know what they were fighting about?
No.
Oxfam. That's a charity that raises money for Africa.
And they disagreed on...
They disagreed about this because Bob Geldof was there, and the Socialists didn't want to meet him, and in the end they finished up fighting about charity for Africa. And then the next day I heard one of the Conservative people on television. He was talking about how badly the young people were behaving in the inner cities. You know?
You know, it was something... I don't think they ever actually got to a fight, but I believe there was 2 congressmen or 2 senators in this country about a year ago in a similar situation. I don't think that that was the topic, but one of them called the other one out, and they were going to do a little pushing.
They were actually going to fight?
They were actually going to fight, but I don't think there was a punch thrown.
Well, I've never seen people actually falling to the ground and rolling around on national television.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem British somehow to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we used to despise all the other nations for doing.
Yeah, rowdyism, hooliganism, sure. We're going to do a commercial, and then we'll be back with certainly one of the fine gentlemen of North America and the continent and the British Isles, Mr. John Cleese. We're here with the Honorable John Cleese, whatever that means. Now, you ever get involved politically?
Well, I just began to,
yes.
They asked me, it was the first time it's ever happened in England, they actually asked me to make what's known as a party political broadcaster, which means that each of the parties, and there's 4 of them now, get about a 10-minute slot 5 times a year. And they actually asked me to do one. So
carried on the BBC?
Yeah. And they carried it on ITV on the commercial channel.
And what was the nature of your 10
Well, I was trying to get across an argument for a thing called proportional representation, which is to do with the voting system. But the great thing was they'd actually let me do jokes. Because the great joke in England is that whenever you have these political broadcasts, they are just phenomenally dull. So we had stagehands all around the studio snoring, and I was kept asking them be quiet a bit because I'm trying to tell the people about politics. It was great to be able to do jokes.
Yeah, and did that help the cause? Did you get your bill through or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. They took an opinion poll just before it and an opinion poll after it, and the support for it went up 10 points just on one broadcast. Because I think that jokes are a great way of making points, because if I make somebody laugh, by laughing, they kind of acknowledge the point that I'm making. I think it's a wonderful persuasion.
But you're beloved in your home country anyway, I'm guessing, aren't you?
Deeply.
Yeah.
Deeply.
and you're sort of doing a different version of what you just described now. Training film.
That's right. Well, I started 13 years ago to make funny training films, which sounds very strange. Well,
who gets to see
We
these?
make them with our money, and then anybody who wants to hire them or to sell them to show to their employees.
Is it for large corporations,
Large
small
corporations,
businesses?
small businesses, some tiny businesses hire just a single video cassette and give it to the one employee, and he goes and sticks it in a VCR.
And you write and direct all of these?
Yes, I write them and direct them and act them. Well, I don't. I help the director, you know, with setting the stuff up and casting and so forth. Peter Robinson, who's the managing director, directs them. And they're all things like how to run a meeting, how to take decisions.
And they're all funny?
And they're all funny,
And we have one here. Do you know what the name of the one is we're going to see tonight?
Yes, this is about taking decisions.
How to make decisions?
Oh, no, it's about incisions. It's about when you're trying to sell something to someone, you must sell what's known as the benefit to them and not the feature of the product. Or you've got to sell it from their point of view.
How it will improve their lot.
Their lot, not how great it is from your point of view.
Yeah, okay. And so this is a little bit of this particular training film. Are you making a lot of money on these?
A lot.
Oh, good. Here it comes. John, please.
Operation for you. Only 3 incisions, an Anderson slash, a Ridgway's double-side fillet, and a standard dormer slit. Only 5 minutes with a scalpel, top whack, only 30 stitches. We can take out up to 5 pounds of your insides and have you back in your hospital bed in 75 minutes flat. And we can do 10 in a day. Shall I put you down for 3?
I don't want 3. I don't want 1. I don't need it.
Fair enough. Here's a better one. Only just in the very latest. Right? We bore 2 small holes in the top of your head.
No.
Well, it's clever stuff. It's the very latest.
It'll hurt.
You'll be spark out.
Yes, but what about afterwards?
Afterwards? Well, I have a cup of tea and do the next one.
Have you got, we'll see you in a film soon? Weren't you working on a film with the last
That's
time?
right, yes. I'm writing a film with a marvellous old guy called Charlie Crichton, who was one of the great Ealing comedy directors. I don't know if you remember Lavender Hill Mob.
Oh, yeah.
Or Hue and Cry. And he's about 190 years of age. We have to assemble him from a box every time. He's a marvellous, he really knows how to use a camera.
Well, we'll look forward to that and anything else you're involved in. Nice to see you again, John. Thank you very much for being here. We'll do a Station identification, and we'll be right back. Our next guest was one of the original members of Monty Python. He was also the star of the British comedy series Fawlty Towers and can now be seen in a brand new motion picture called Clockwise. Please welcome the very distinguished Mr. John Cleese. How do you do? How do you do? Nice to see you. So nice to have you. John Cleese, ladies and gentlemen. How do you do? Nice to see you.
Nice to be here. I'm selling again, I'm afraid.
Every time you're here, you have a little project, a little something to promote. Well, that's all right. That's the American way.
Psychiatry books, industrial training films.
Yeah.
Now it's a movie.
Clockwise.
Clockwise, thank you.
What's
Should we
it about?
talk about something else?
What's up to you? What would you like to discuss?
Do you like fish?
Oh, do I ever?
Do you? Do you like dace?
Do I like what?
Dace?
Dace?
Brill?
Oh, these are all varieties of fish?
Yeah?
No, I eat pretty much skate and sea trout.
Well, it's about a headmaster who runs a big school, and he has a very important speech to make because he's been elected the chairman of a group of headmasters of all the top schools in England. And it's about him getting from the school where he teaches to the place, Norwich. Yeah, I'm bored too. Shall I talk about something else?
I'm
And
not
it's quite
bored.
funny. It's
I'm
quite
not
fun.
bored.
It's quite funny. Anyway,
I'm excited
do you
beyond
know
belief.
how boring movies are? I mean, have you been on a movie set?
No, never really been.
Oh, it's like spending 8 weeks at an airport, you know? Because you can't get anything done. You can't even read because you never know when they're going to need you. You know, you have to be on
So you can't really leave, you can't really relax, you have to be.
You can't do anything. So I am going to give it up.
You're going to stop making movies?
I'm going to stop making movies. I want to make some real money. And I have a great plan to make money.
All right.
Now, I told you that the British national sport is being embarrassed, right?
Right. We remember that.
Do you know what the American national sport is?
The American national sport,
What you like doing better than anything else? Not you, Americans.
Yeah, I see. No, I wouldn't know.
Talking.
Talking, yeah. That makes sense.
I have never heard people talk like Americans talk. They make the French sound like Trappists. That is why when you have a game like American football, you only get about 4.5 seconds action, and then everybody can talk, right? The commentators talk,
That's right.
spectators talk, even the players get together and talk, you know? Then they go back, sadly, silent, and they play for another 4.5 seconds, and then they all get together and talk again. Now, because you love talking so much, I've been working out a way to make real money by letting you talk even more than you normally do.
Okay.
Now, do you notice that when I speak, every now and again I pause? Like then. Did you see how I paused there? And again, there. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did.
Right.
Yes.
Now, do you want to say something and pause?
No.
We'll take it as read.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of wasted talking time here, right? When we're breathing in, we could be talking,
Could be saying
right?
important things,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
And when you go to the theater, you know, the guy says to be or not to be, and then there's a pause where he goes, you know, and everybody gets bored with that because they don't want to pay good money to watch somebody breathing.
No.
It's ridiculous. So I am setting up an institute to teach people how to speak while inhaling.
Oh, an invaluable service.
An invaluable service to politicians in particular, but especially to actors.
Yeah. Can you do a little of this for us?
I can do a little. It's not easy. I haven't perfected it yet.
No, that's
but if
why
I,
we need an institution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I was an actor, I would say, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by a golden end. And it's even better if you have you know Henry V at Agincourt?
Yeah, sure.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more.
Close the wall up with our English dead.
There's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility.
Defend the flood, the war, throw it in there.
Then imitate the action of the tiger.
Keep on the sinew.
Summon up the blood.
He's going.
Are you all right? Are you okay?
It's about a headmaster.
Yeah. Do you like actors? I mean, do you generally, as a group, do you enjoy their company? Do you find them?
Been around actors? Can I
Yeah,
tell you a
I
story?
see a lot of actors on the show here.
Can I tell you a story about a barman? He's in a bar in New York, and he sees a guy sitting at the end of the bar who looks very glum and lonely, and he says, you know, why don't you talk to someone? You know, you look real lonely. And the guy says, I have an IQ of 181. I can't find anyone to talk to. And a guy sitting on the stool there says, hey, I'm 179. Let's talk. So the barman gets them together, gives them a vodka, and they start talking about negative energy and entropy, you know, and why it was Karpov kept moving that rook in the Queen's file in the 16th game of the World Chess Championship, and exactly what is a myon, you know, where atomic physics is going. Meanwhile, the barman's gone down the bar, and he sees somebody else. He says, what's your IQ? The guy says, I have the same problem. He says, I'm 153. Somebody says, 156. He gets them together. They talk about the latest Woody Allen movie, and where you can get fresh pasta and BMWs and that kind of thing. And he sees one guy right down the end who's just sitting there, and he says, well, you know, what's your IQ? And the guy says, it's 61. So he says, well, anyone? And the guy says, I'm 59. So they get together. He says, well, talk. They sit there and they say, okay, so what are we going to talk about? I guess, I don't know. Been to any auditions recently?
The movie is called Clockwise, opening nationwide soon at a theater near you?
It's about 3 cinemas across
All right,
the United
but
States.
worth your trouble to see Mr. Cleese in action. Nice to have you here again,
Los
John.
Angeles,
Thanks for
New
coming
York.
by. L.A. and New York. We'll be right back with Elaine Booster. Thank you very much. Our next guest is always a welcome visitor to this program. This man was one of the founders of Monty Python. He is a prolific writer, a talented actor, and he can currently be seen in a new home video series called Ripping Yarns. Right here. I have a package of it right here. Folks, please say hello to the one, the only Michael Palin. Michael. Well, you can do that, sure. How you doing?
My back's gone.
I'm fine. With that earlier, you know.
It's really nice to see you again. Very nice.
Is it true that the holiday time, Christmas in particular, is your anniversary for your career in acting? Did you start about this time?
Yeah, I did with disastrous results.
How old were you?
9. I had no equity card, so this was a non-union job, and I was playing in a Christmas Carol.
Whereabouts?
At school play.
School where?
In Sheffield, England, Yorkshire. It's sort of about, you know, Derby?
Not familiar with Derby.
It's nowhere near Derby.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, it's nowhere near there.
You know Moscow? Oh,
I've
that's
heard of
later.
it.
I'll tell you about that later. Don't jump ahead, Michael. Where am I? God, it's so exciting. Yeah, and anyway, I played one of the Cratchit family. You know, they're the family of the poor man who is...
Tiny Tim's family?
Tiny Tim's family.
Yeah.
And I was Martha, and it was a...
You were Martha?
I worked hard for that role. Actually, I wanted to be Mrs. Cratchit. She had all the action, you know, the big car chase was Mrs. Cratchit. Martha was very boring. She just sort of limped on. Don't you?
No,
our school production had a lot. It was a very modern version, you know. We had a lot of, you know, modern illusions. Anyway, the scene was... It's a big scene. It's the big dinner party scene. But it was a big scene, a rather small stage, and I was the last one to come on, and I was shown to my chair, which was just about the back of the stage, and I sat down, the front of the stage, the back of the table, and one of the legs was just over the rim of the stage. And as I sat down, I just catapulted backwards, straight off the stage, into the audience, killed several of the younger boys, or maimed them, and got a hell of a laugh. I got a laugh, you know, so I gave up straight acting from that moment on.
So that was your first role and your first big laugh?
That was my first role, and that was Christmas. And it was shameful. I was ashamed.
You just got back, or not, maybe didn't just get back, but you have been to Moscow since we last talked to you.
That's right.
And I think this is a pretty interesting trip you took. I mean, going to Moscow in and of itself would be interesting, but you went there for another reason.
Yeah. We went there for a rare event called British Film Week, which is involves no spying at all. You know, no spying, no visits to Philby or anything like that. No, you just go with your movies. And I went with Jabberwocky in a film called Brazil, and Terry Gilliam and myself went there. And, well, We'll see.
So what was this?
up-to-date.
What was this experience like, personally, professionally, socially? Tell me about how did they react to Brazil? What was the reaction when they saw that?
Well, I think we could never find the reactions. What we did was we would introduce the film to an audience of Russians.
Now, who gets to go to this film festival? Just regular folks?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
I think specially selected folks. And they were very nice. They laughed a lot.
Party members, maybe?
Not at the funny bits, but they laughed.
Yeah.
Yes, party members possibly. Yeah. And you could never find any reaction afterwards to the movies. You'd say, well, how did it go? Oh, we don't know. Well, I mean, maybe you could ask some people who were in the audience.
Yeah.
No, well, we don't know. As though they disappeared after the movie. Maybe these people were disappeared. And,
so the feeling was they didn't want to be responsible for any opinion on the film?
That's right, yes. So you could get no feedback at all. So we went on to Leningrad. Terry Gilliam had a video camera, a little mini video, and just shot film all the time, which gets them they don't like that at all. And the people we met were really fantastic, very, very nice indeed. En masse, they sort of rather negative, rather despondent. When you get them down talking to them,
nice enough
they're
folk.
very humorous and very nice indeed.
Was the film subtitled? Was it translated? How was it?
It was simultaneously translated. So there's a poor Russian who has to sit at the back there and do all the parts of this thing that's going on.
But how could you be certain that he was translating it honestly? He could have made it a Porky Pig cartoon.
I never thought about it. I know. I'm so naive about these things.
Well,
David. I'm just.
Were you and Terry nervous about the first playing of the film there? Or did you?
I wouldn't say nervous. I was just baffled, really, as to what they'd make of it.
Yeah.
But as I say, there were laughs at various points during the movie.
Yeah. We're going to do a commercial? Yes. Okay, we'll do a commercial, and then I'd like to talk with you more about your trip to the Soviet Union, if that's all right. Palin is here, and how long were you in...
Sorry.
Yes, they're very good. Very good. Yeah. How long were you in
that was all mine,
the Soviet Union?
How long were we there? Five days.
Oh, so it was a relatively brief trip.
That's right.
What about the food? Not too bad?
Very difficult to find. Really, I'm not being...
Is that right?
I'm not being facetious or even funny, as you can tell. It was very difficult to get into restaurants. You would go around and...
Can you just walk through the streets and pick a restaurant and go in?
No, that's difficult. You have to find the right restaurant. They're usually in big hotels. And it says restaurant. You go in and you say, table for, 4, please. No. Okay. Can we maybe eat here? No. Oh. Is this restaurant sign? Is this something relevant at all? And then they just shut the door. And it's empty. You can see there are tables in there.
So what's the deal?
Well, the deal is I think you have to drive up in a very big limousine and be a member probably of the Central Committee of Restaurateurs of the Soviet Union. And then you get in. But really, some nights it was almost like we were never able to find anything to eat. And we finally found a place called the Vostok Bar, which did something sort of brown things in... a bit like what you've just eaten, only raw. And so we ate those.
Were you guys escorted while you were out in the cities, or could you go about your business?
We were escorted, yeah. But I mean, by an interpreter. I mean, well, there were people, you were vaguely aware of people watching you. I mean, one night about 1 o'clock, I decided to go for a walk around the block outside my hotel. Honestly, I really did, just a walk. And I just noticed that, so I went down. This is one of the big hotels of Moscow. And I got down to the door, and the door was locked. So you have to find some guy who's asleep to go and open the door. I don't know how you get in at that time, night or out. And as I went out, I noticed just across the way, in a small sort of park, there was a police car with its engine running. And it didn't follow me. I was really, I felt very, very hurt.
Was it...
I just walked off and they weren't at all interested.
Was it... it must have been fascinating, but probably not satisfying as a tourist. Or maybe it was.
Very satisfying as a tourist.
Was that right?
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, the cities are very, very beautiful. Yeah. Worth seeing, worth seeing. Not as a comedian, not so good.
Let's talk about this here. What do we have? Ripping Yarns by Michael Palin and Terry Jones. What does this contain exactly?
Oh, it's a wonderful. That's a feast of fun there. You're handling the right box there.
That's what it says right here.
Three great half-hour comedies.
And what are the Ripping Yarns?
Well, it was a series that Terry and myself wrote after Monty Python, and they are half-hour films, each based on a sort of the kind of adventure stories I read when I was young. Sort of, there's a prisoner of war camp story, there's a Agatha Christie murder story, there's a sort of supernatural story called Curse of the Claw, and they're all sort of vague send-ups. There's a sort of 1911, 1912 James Bond figure called Gerald Winfrey, who is always saving the world. I mean, he saves the world 3 times a week, and he's gone on holiday at the very time when British intelligence discover a plot by the Germans to start the First World War a year early. Fiendish plot, you know.
All done with your special touch of comedy.
Oh, yes, yes, all done with the old...
Do we have time for a limerick?
Oh, God, yes.
Do you have one for us?
Well, I should remember them, but I've quickly scribbled a couple down.
Well, they're no fun if you have to write them down, are they? You
Sorry?
Well, go ahead.
Well, I go. If I try?
Please do.
This could be the end of my professional career. These are some limericks that I wrote in a book some time ago, and just a couple I could remember. The dog of a man called Dromgoole. That's a bit of a long way round.
It's not a name
but
you
the
see a lot
second
in the
line,
phone book, is
okay.
it?
You can see why when you hear the second line. Had a thing about Peter O'Toole. When he came on the telly, he'd roll on his belly and do funny things to the stool. And there's a sad one here. There once was a fellow named God, who everyone thought rather odd, except for a lady called Eileen O'Grady, who worshipped the ground that he trod. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Could you set that to music?
Ripping yarns. What does a person pay for one of these?
Oh, it's just a minimal amount of dollars. Minimal, absolutely minimal. I think probably less than $30.
You know what you could do?
Maybe less than 20.
You could probably get this instead of that meat cassette that Julia Child had.
Yeah.
Put that right in there.
Yeah.
Michael, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Come back anytime, sir. We'll be right back, folks. We're going to do a commercial. Thank you, folks. We're nearly finished for the evening. My thanks to my guest tonight, Michael Palin. Nice to see you again. And you tell me that this is only one of 3 that you get when you pay the price.
Nine yarns for the price of 9.
90 minutes of side-splitting comedy.
Absolutely.
All right, Michael, good to see you again. Have a good holiday. Also, my thanks to Julia Child, who's in the hallway sobbing now. And Bill Wendell, of course, Paul Schaefer and the band. Tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, Chevy Chase, Inez de la Frechange, or words to that effect, and a lot more. Elaine Boosler, we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.